A paralyzed girl came to the shelter. What the most dangerous dog did next brought everyone to tears. A girl in a wheelchair entered the shelter. She whispered, "I want to see the one who's the most afraid." The staff exchanged glances. That was cage number 11. Inside was Thunder, a huge German shepherd they called a lost cause. He would lunge at the bars, growl, and let no one near. But the girl wasn't afraid. She slowly rolled up to the cage and started talking. What happened in the next few minutes would change everyone's life forever. No one ever approached cage number 11. Even the most experienced volunteers stayed away. Thunder, massive, wounded, scarred, reacted to everyone the same way. Snarls, growls, tense muscles. His whole existence seemed built on fear and pain. He had been found in the basement of an abandoned house. A collar had grown into his neck, his body covered in old scars. Since then, he hadn't let anyone close. But today was different. The girl's name was Sasha. Her mother, a quiet woman with a tired face, had brought her. Sasha couldn't walk. After the accident, her legs no longer obeyed her. But her eyes, full of strength, still shone with confidence. She rolled past the cages where dogs reached out with hope. But her gaze never left the end of the hall, where Thunder breathed in the shadows. "I want to talk to him," she whispered. "He's dangerous," one worker breathed. "He doesn't trust anyone," but Sasha nodded. "I used to not trust anyone either." And so her mother, trembling with fear, slowly pushed her daughter toward the most feared cage in the shelter. When Sasha approached, Thunder rose suddenly, like a storm. Huge, black and tan, every muscle tense, his fur bristled. He bared his teeth and a low growl rumbled through the cage, heavy as a passing train. "Please, Sasha, don't," her mother whispered, gripping the handles of the wheelchair until her knuckles turned white. But the girl didn't look away. She wasn't staring at the fangs. She was looking into his eyes. There was no anger there, only pain. She leaned forward and whispered, "You're just scared, aren't you?" Thunder growled louder, his paws shifting closer to the bars. A shelter worker gasped and rushed to throw a blanket over the cage. "No," Sasha said firmly. "He won't attack. He just doesn't believe." The adults exchanged glances. In months at the shelter, no one had ever seen Thunder allow anyone closer than a meter. He'd even attack his food bowl. But there was something about this girl. Not her words, not even her voice, but the quiet in her presence. "Hi," Sasha said softly. "My name is Sasha. I know you don't want to see me. I didn't want to be in this chair either. I was angry and scared too." Thunder kept growling, but one ear twitched, a tiny, almost invisible sign. But Sasha noticed. "When I woke up after the accident, I thought no one would ever want to be my friend again, that I wasn't needed anymore, that I was broken." Thunder stopped moving. He stood still, breathing heavily, staring straight into her eyes. His gaze changed, not furious, not threatening, just tired, as if he remembered what it felt like to be broken. "But they told me I could still matter," she whispered. "That even if I'm in a chair, my heart's still whole. And you, Thunder, you're not bad. Your heart's just tired of being alone." The shelter fell silent. The only sound was water dripping from a faucet in the corner, and then Thunder took his first step. He didn't lunge or snarl. He simply stepped back, then lay down, resting his head on his paws. A gasp rippled through the room. "He understood you," one woman whispered. "He's surrendering." Sasha slowly extended her trembling hand, just inches from the bars. "Can I just stay here a little?" she asked quietly. Thunder didn't move, but his eyes, those dark eyes filled with pain, softened for just a second. Real. True. Sasha smiled and sat still, breathing evenly, saying nothing, just being there. In a silence he seemed to understand better than words. She stayed by his cage a long time, watching him breathe slowly, calmly. The scars on his face were clear in the dim light, a statue of pain, burned from the inside but still alive. "Do you have scars too?" she whispered. She gently rolled up her sleeve, showing a thin line on her arm. Mine's from glass. When the car flipped, her mother flinched. She rarely heard her daughter talk about that night. But that's not the worst, Sasha continued. The worst is feeling alone. When it's dark, and you think no one will ever come near again, Thunder lifted his head. The volunteers froze. He was listening. Really listening. Sasha extended her hand again, not to touch, but so he would know she was there. I'm not in a hurry, she whispered. I'm just here. A minute passed. Maybe 2. Then a movement. Thunder stood up, his paws trembling slightly. He took one step forward, then another. Everyone held their breath. He came right up to the bars and stared at her hand. Anxious, uncertain, and something else. As if fighting himself. Sasha didn't move. It's okay, she whispered. I won't hurt you. Thunder touched her fingers with his nose, just a light, fleeting touch. Then he pulled back, but didn't leave. He stayed. Sasha smiled. Thank you, she whispered. You're the bravest one I know. And then something incredible happened. Thunder stepped closer and gently pressed his head against her hand. Once. Then again, as if making sure she was real, her mother burst into tears. He's real, she whispered. He's good. Sasha stroked his rough fur gently as if touching something sacred. You're not scary, she said softly. You're just hurt. And I know what that feels like. Thunder sighed, long and deep. His eyes were still tired, but a spark lit within them. A spark that said, I don't want to be alone anymore. The staff couldn't believe what they were seeing. A woman who had fed Thunder for months whispered through tears. He never even let a food bowl near him. And now, he trusts. Sasha looked at her mother. Can we stay a little longer? Her mother just nodded, unable to speak. For the first time in a long time, Sasha felt no fear. And for the first time, Thunder felt no anger. They were just together, 2 lonely souls who had finally found each other. An hour passed. Sasha still sat by the cage, gently stroking his muzzle. Thunder didn't growl or flinch. He lay pressed against the bars, breathing slowly, sometimes trembling as if remembering everything he had hidden for years. Sasha's mother watched from a bench nearby. For the first time in months, she saw her daughter smiling. Truly smiling, from deep inside. The shelter was silent, reverent. No one wanted to break the moment. We should film this, whispered a young volunteer, reaching for his phone. But the shelter director placed a hand on his shoulder. No, this isn't for the camera. It's for them. Minutes later, Sasha spoke again. You weren't always like this, right? Thunder's ears twitched. He seemed to listen not with his ears, but his heart. I was angry for a long time when I couldn't walk. It felt like I wasn't me anymore. At school, kids stopped playing with me. Some pitied me, some laughed. I wanted to disappear. Thunder slowly turned his head, his gaze piercing. He couldn't speak, but Sasha understood. You hid too, didn't you? He crawled closer until his wet nose touched the wheel of her chair. He wasn't afraid anymore. He was searching. My mom says I'm strong. Sasha smiled faintly. But I didn't feel strong until today. She stroked his head. Thunder gave a low, hoarse growl. Not angry, just uncertain, as if he couldn't believe he'd allowed her touch. You know, she giggled, if you jerk suddenly, I'll fall. But I'm still here. Because you're my friend now. Then something incredible happened. Thunder stood up, circled inside the cage, and barked once. Loud, clear, not threatening. It wasn't anger. It was as if he said, I'm here. I'm alive. Sasha startled, then burst out laughing. Her laughter rang through the hall like a bell. Her mother ran up. Are you okay? He just said hello. Sasha smiled. That evening, as the shelter was closing, the staff offered to walk Sasha to the exit. But she didn't want to leave. He thinks I'll leave him, like everyone else, she said. I don't want him to stay alone in the dark. The director hesitated, then sighed. Wait a moment. She left and returned with papers. If you're sure, we can start the adoption process. He's a complicated dog. You can't just take him home." Sasha's mother took the forms, then looked at her daughter. "You really want him?" Sasha nodded. Thunder sat by the bars, staring at her as if afraid it was all a dream. "He's like me," she said. "He's not bad, just hurt, and we can heal each other." A few days later, Sasha returned, not as a visitor but as Thunder's owner. For the first time since his rescue, the cage opened. He stepped out cautiously, as if unsure this freedom was real. He approached Sasha and laid his head on her lap. Everyone held their breath. Sasha stroked his neck and whispered, "Welcome home, Thunder." He gave a low rumble, not fear, but relief. From that day on, they were inseparable. Thunder walked beside her wheelchair in the yard. He waited by the door after school. He lay beside her when she was in pain, and she smiled again. Each day, a little more. People in town called it a miracle, but Sasha's mother knew it wasn't a miracle. It was a meeting of two souls who had lost everything and found each other. The morning was quiet. The sun rose, painting the asphalt gold. Sasha rolled out of her building as she did every Sunday. On her wheelchair hung a green bag, with treats and a ball. Thunder was already waiting, sitting by the door like a guard, but the moment he saw her, his seriousness vanished. His tail thumped the ground, eyes shining. He touched her palm with his nose, and they set off together. It was their tradition, a walk through the park, past the lake where the elderly gathered, past the bench where the shopkeeper always smiled and slipped a sausage into a paper bag for Thunder. "Good morning, Sasha," called a woman from her balcony. "Hello, Thunder. On duty again?" Sasha waved, and Thunder walked beside her, steady, calm, matching the rhythm of her wheels. No one could believe this dog had once been called dangerous. Now he cuddled children, lay beside the elderly, and guarded Sasha at every turn. But only she knew how he was at night, when the apartment grew still, and Thunder came to her bedside, lay down, and sighed deeply. He remembered, too. He was afraid, too, but now he wasn't alone. "We survived," Sasha would whisper, stroking his head. "That's what matters." A month passed since they became a family. One day at school, the teacher asked the children to draw what changed their life. Some drew siblings. Some drew bicycles. Sasha drew a cage, an empty one, beside her wheelchair, and a big dog with kind eyes. "This is Thunder," she said. "He was alone. I was alone. But now we're together, and we'll be okay." The teacher looked at the drawing for a long time, then wiped his eyes and pinned it to the board. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the most wounded ones become our saviors." That evening, Sasha and her mom went back to the shelter. They brought food, a warm blanket, and a box labeled, "For those still waiting." Thunder walked calmly beside her. When they entered, the volunteers stopped, recognizing him instantly. Thunder walked to his old cage. He sniffed the bars and barked once. It wasn't fear or anger, it was goodbye. "You'll never come back here," Sasha whispered. "I promise." As they were leaving, a little boy ran up. "Can I pet him?" he asked shyly. Sasha nodded. Thunder approached, sniffed the boy, and gently nudged his hand with his nose. The boy laughed. "He's magic," he shouted. Sasha smiled. "Yes, magic, but not the fairy tale kind, the real kind." When they got home, Sasha looked out the window. The sun was setting. She stroked Thunder's neck and whispered, "You were scared no one would love you. But now, we're loved together." Thunder sighed and lay at her feet. He was home, and in that small town, where everything once seemed gray, everyone now knew a girl named Sasha and a dog named Thunder had walked through the darkness together, and their friendship had lit a light that shone not only for them, but for everyone who was afraid to believe again.